welcome back to another r/Tales from the Creeps. Today we're looking at a gothic horror story. I think it's a two-parter. I don't know if there's going to be more parts after that, but it's called Fever. The author is named, Unhappy Radio 10. They have written other works for the subreddit, so I will leave their profile link in the description below, as well as the Discord server. I have no idea what to expect, but gothic horror set in 1847 central London. Gross, British people. But I have no idea what to expect. I'm kind of excited to get into it, so let's get into it right. Oh, hold on. You guys want to meet Duke? Hold on. Duke! Come here, Bubba. Come here. There he is. Oh, come on. Come on. Come on. He doesn't want to. Hold on. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, there he is. You want to look at the camera? No. He's kind of a chill dog. He doesn't want to look at the camera. I don't know. I want to mess with the camera, actually. Yep, just ignore the anime going on in the background. Look, Duke, right there. Yep, that's my new German Shepherd. He's a good boy. Yeah, he's a good boy. Okay. Okay. Alright, get out of here so I can read. I'll play and pet with you in a minute, okay? Okay, let's get into the story. I'm excited. Central London, 1874. Or 1847. Already messing up. Great start. The suffocating chill of the night, bitterly familiar, clutched at the fog-laden air, imbuing the very atmosphere with a melancholy that never faltered. But this time, the chill felt like a premonition, a shroud caressing itself around me. The cold air that seeped in it felt heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay. A full year had been abroad. A pallid month drawn towards the distant, alluring flame of independence. A year prior had been filled with delight at the dream of chasing the elusive phantom of artistic selfhood through the halls of Swiss academies. My spirit fluttered with a desperate hope to escape the shadow of the great Dr. Whitmore. But alas, grim and unwelcome, duty recalled me. I found myself returned, not to delight my family with tales of my exploits in the artistic realm, but for a somber, humbling ritual, to attend a funeral. The summons arrived days late. A cruel jest from the unfeeling postal service, guilt, sharp and stinging, pierced me deeper than any of London's ice ever could. I arrived by a single day after the rites had been performed. My brother laid to his eternal rest without my presence, without my farewells. Carriage wheels churned through the muck of the muddy city streets, carrying me towards the ancestral weight of Whitmore Manor. A sharp, seizing chill, far beyond the sharp gnaws of the December air, began to creep into my very marrow. My entire being shuddered under its influence before I was struck by a cloying exhaustion that settled like a shroud. I watched the familiar morose landscape blur past the window, the trees like skeleton hands clawing out of the earth, as the trot of horses slowed with the near of our destinations. Melancholy burrowed into my chest, a slight sting in my throat. Was this return home destined to be a return to persistent failing health and lifelong melancholy? This house seemed to hold a tragic miasma, one that had always pulled me into a cloying grasp of illness. Could it be that even across the Alps I had carried the seed of my own frail constitution, only for them to take root once I returned the garden I'd been plucked from? I assured myself that this icy tremor was merely the hanging guilt of absence. Was it a manifestation of shame for missing Benjamin's final rites? My ancestral home stood intimidating as it always had. 'Twas a stoic, somber monument to generations past, structural stones seeming to bleed into the perpetual gloom. Its bleak facade absorbed the unsaturated winter light, the windows like vacant eyes watching a world oblivious of it. As Miss Holloway opened the door for me, I could feel the cloud of unspoken grief and the oppressive weight of absence. Parents, London's illustrious Dr. and Madam Whitmore, received me with strange smiles, trying to pretend they were happy I was home. It did little to mask their own profound sorrow, and perhaps a tinge of disappointment at which son was still alive. So I'm guessing this son is kind of a failure compared to the one that just died. I'm just, throwing things out there. I have no idea what's going to happen. My father, a man of medicine, carried an air of defeat as he'd failed to stop the ultimate malady that comes from us all, death. My mother, ever the gentle homemaker, moved about like a wraith. Her smile was as fragile as the ice that clung to the eaves of our home. Both their eyes held the red stain of previous tearfall. I hoped that returning to familiar surroundings would offer some measure of solace and comforting atmosphere needed to properly mourn my dear brother. He was more of a father to me than my father. He was my guardian, my hero. My mourning would be profound, and thus the comforts of home should have been akin to my warm hug. Instead, it offered a putrid veil of memory and melancholy. What I can vaguely describe as a fever struck a week into my arrival, and it was a ravenous and insidious invader. It began as a mere shiver, a prickle that danced down my spine, but rapidly escalated into a mind-bending inferno that threatened to consume my very reason. The world outside my fever dreams, hushed conservations and relentless ticking of the grandfather clock, receded, replaced by a hallucinatory landscape where dark shapes writhed and whispered, echoed with an unnatural clarity that felt both near and far. A leather-bound journal, usually a little more than necessary, companion for a communication with my silent voice. I'm a lifelong mute. Oh, interesting. That became my only recourse. In those first fever days, I endeavored to capture the unsettling feeling, the phantom touch of guilt's presence, the surreal quality of what I could only describe as ghostly haunting. As ridiculous as that sounds, each entry a desperate plea against encroaching madness. The air is an venerable house, once a sanctuary from the cruelty of the world beyond these walls, now thickens with some spectral dread. Father would never believe me, and I fear I don't know if I can believe it myself. I can't do a British accent, but I'll try. But Benjamin walks the halls again, a shadow more intangible than memory. It is this harrowing fever that paints this visage in such darkened shadows, in such darkened sorrow, or is this true evidence of hallowed spirits among us? My brush aches to capture this light, the profound, chilling beauty of his return. Alas, the colours bleed into fear. Oh, I went Scottish. Fear, and as always I have. He appears in the shadows every hole in this estate, but he speaks to me in a gripping nightmare. His words are like poison, claims of a past I did not recognize, a pain I did not know I inflicted. He speaks of sacrifice and a future surrendered. Is this truly the Benjamin I knew, my steadfast protector, or is it a shadow born of my own fevered grief, a figment conjured by a mind unraveling? Yeah, I can't do British, but it goes straight to Scottish. I don't know why. I'm sorry. Childhood in this place was not one of sunny days and airy laughter. It was a birdcage of hushed anxiety, potent medicines, father's unyielding, cold, and clinical nature, and his insistence, sometimes violent, of this study in medicine upon my brother. Hold on. Oh, excuse me. Yep, that's normal. Benjamin, my confidant and shield, was my father's reluctant pupil. He was meant for medicine. Father would shout following the crack of a ruler, not the fleeting fancies of the painter that lived in his heart. I recall with a clarity that chills me now to my soul the countless instances where I, racked by fever or some unseen malady, became an unwilling subject in our father's grim lessons. Benjamin would be instructed with the firm clinical urgency of surgery. I would lie on my cot, shivering and weak, listening to father's harsh commands. Alright, here we go. Benjamin, the lancet. Steady your hand. Again, I can't do British. It goes straight to Scottish. The humors must be drawn. You are to learn the precision required. I can still feel the cold press of the steel against my skin. Sharp sting of his. Benjamin followed father's precise, agonizing movements. He would try to be gentle, but the fear in his eyes, the weight of father's gaze was always present. Father's voice, an often violent sound, would shatter the silence, the air like a brick to glass. Hold on, I'm gonna try again. Careless Benjamin, you've drawn far too much. Are you aiming to kill Mikhail with such incompetence? Yeah, I can't. It's bad. Alright, I'm gonna redo that line. Careless Benjamin, you've drawn far too much. Are you aiming to kill Mikhail with such incompetence? And then the swift, sharp crack of father's ruler against the back of Benjamin's neck. Sound that made me flinch even in my weakened stupor, Benjamin would struggle to not recoil, knowing that would prolong punishment. His eyes would meet mine for but a fleeting moment, filled not with protective love or cherish, but with a profound sense of resentment and sorrow. It is in these swaying, fevered hours that Benjamin's ghost visits, his presence a chilling mockery of the brother I once adored. His appearance is not one of a devilish shadow, but as a phantom of saccharine sweetness. He mocks me with insidious reminders of our past. Mikhail, my dearest little brother. His voice echoed, wrapping me in a venomous cocoon. It emerged from the decaying remnant of my dreams, dripping with a syrup-like concern. It warms my heart to see you back, though it breaks it that you came for so morose reasons. You were lonely. You were lonely. How was your painting? So brave of you to pursue it. Father would never have allowed it, but you know that. But as your protector, I never want to dictate your path. I gave up my own dreams, you know, my own kindnesses, my own future to ensure you had yours. Father wanted a proper successor, and I did not have the same luxury of not being good enough. It was my greatest sacrifice, little ghost. This once endearing nickname now felt like a stab of ice to my heart. He shows me visions He shows me visions then of shared torment, dreams where he is the reluctant instrument of father's cruelties, and I the delicate and carefree painter. Specifically, a summer day that still burned in my memory, Benjamin was doing quite well in the medical studies, had the opportunity to take a small reprieve and pursue some instruction on painting. Father was in a rare sunny mood and seemed to entertain the idea, but then there was I, under the carefree and loving instruction of Benjamin, who long held my hand until I could steady my own brushstrokes, with painstakingly explained the intricacies of lighting and composition, had been accepted into an art school in Geneva. Despite his disdain for my interests, Father believed there was a clinical positive for my health and promised to let me go. With Mikhail leaving, don't discuss this with me again. We need to assure Mikhail is healthy enough to leave us. It will be good at a test of your studies, and once you have proven yourself to me, we can discuss this by next spring. I'm a man of my word. But next spring never came. See, Mikhail? He whispered, his translucent form looming over me as I lay burning. See what I endure for you? Father's wrath and control, all because I had to care for you. I bled for you, Mikhail. I dealt with stomach-aching guilt as I blistered your skin under Father's prescription. I spent countless nights with little sleep to ensure yours was restful. Spoke for you so you could still connect with the world even after your voice was stolen away. And then I trembled from anxiety. My hand shook from exhaustion. He would strike me. He always struck me, until my bloodshed matched what I had pulled from you. Strikes felt full of cold and hatred. Such pain, such humiliation, carried the burden of your illness and Father's cruelty. So you wouldn't have to. It was my sacrifice, Mikhail. My childhood, my dreams, my passions. I relinquished them all for you. His words were full of poison. The spectral hand, as cool and gray as grave dirt, reaches out, hovering just my favored brow. What should I have been? A gesture of comfort felt much like a threat. He is then eerily silent, hatred dripping from his gaze, before disappearing with a blink, leaving me with only these phantasmic manipulative echoes. The weight of his words were heavier than any fever. Interesting. Oh, excuse me. There's no... Gross. I wonder if he's a lifelong mute because of the, he has, PTSD or the traumatic events his strict and abusive father inflicted on him, and now he feels responsible for all the pain and stuff his brother took and not him. But I kind of admire that about the older brother, because I would probably do the same thing for my younger brothers. Endure pain so they can, live freely and carefree. Anyway, that was part 1. I really enjoyed that a lot. I wonder what part 2 has in store for us. It was some time before I could calm myself enough to sleep. And yeah, as soon as I did, the torment flooded my mind once more. Ben's tone had slightly shifted, and now sweetness laced with chilling mockery. You seem quite ill, brother. Am I real? Or are you just a madman chasing shadows? Perhaps you're simply going mad, little ghost. A family curse, perhaps? Father had always said you were too delicate, a weak disposition, susceptible to even the slightest chill. I could not tell if I was asleep or awake. I sat upright, Benjamin sitting across me on my bed. The room occasionally lit up with the rhythm of the storm outside. It reminds me of much when we were boys, when the sound of the sky frightened me and Ben tried to teach me to be brave. I wished so badly I could speak to ask him why the cruelty of it was indeed losing myself to a sickness of the mind. But I was powerless. His mockery continued. I loved you once. I really did. But resentment bloomed as you did, you little leech. I was no longer Benjamin. I was Mikhail's keeper. You should have died when the first fever struck. You were so close, and though it pained me to watch you in such pain, I also found myself wanting to cease your breathing. Somehow, your pathetic self made it. The light of dawn was the only thing that made him retreat. The initial days were a torment of subtle unease, only a verbal assault. Then venom in his words clung to me, much like a perpetual London fog. My mother, bless her gentle heart, hovered with solicitous care, aided by the ever-watchful Miss Holloway. The fever was a mere whisper, and compared to what it would grow to, a faint tremor beneath the skin. And Benjamin's presence teetered on that of just a series of distressing dreams rather than a tangible visitation. Mikhail, my dearest, Mother would murmur, stroking my brow with hands chilled by anxiety and heartache. Are you feeling any better? Miss Holloway has brewed you some calming chamomile. Miss Holloway was a woman of efficiency, would nod sweetly, her eyes conveying a sympathy I had grown quite familiar with. Some soup, or perhaps just broth, Master Mikhail. It will give you strength. I would clumsily convey my disquieted through my journal, my hands still steady enough to form words, though my usual neat penmanship suffered some. I must confess, I wrote, I feel my weakness growing. I pray it is a temporary blight. Tears pricked Mother's eyes as she read this, as do I. I do not think my heart could bear losing another son. My father, the ever-pragmatist, would merely scoff when he read over the remnants of conversations with Mother. You coddled him, Tatiana. The boy is recovering a dose of melancholy from my brother's passing, coupled with a minor fever. Do not offer such excess sympathy. He must have a desire to get well. Do not discourage that by complying with his complaints. Mental strength. He requires rest, not theatrical pronouncements from a sickbed. Yet unease persisted, a gnawing rat in the pits of my stomach. If I could place a specific turning point as to which my mild fever turned into a mind-melting nightmare, it would be the night Benjamin's presence evolved from harsh mockery to physical torment. Shadows crawled about the firelit study, where I had hoped some reading would offer temporary respite from my anxieties. Heard whispers and various voices, as if ghosts of all Whitmore who once walked these halls were trying to reach at me at once. The words on the page before me might as well have turned Greek, as my eyes struggled to follow them. Mother spoke to me, but her words were numb to my ears. Mikhail! She shouted once more, this time a shrill of fear to her voice. I had snapped to attention. Your eyes dart about like bats. Your mind's somewhere else. She placed a hand to my forehead and made her frown grow. Return to your quarters. I'm fetching your father. Still somewhat skeptical, father merely offered a spoonful of laudanum and left me to rest. Sleep offered no sanctuary, only a descent into fright so profound, so primal, it seared itself into my soul. The dream, it was indeed that, was stark, devoid of Benjamin's usual false sweetness and mocking laughter. It was pure, unadulterated malice. I found myself in my own bed, yet the room was steeped in an unnatural, suffocating darkness. Benjamin loomed over me, his form indistinct yet terrifyingly clear at the same time. I could not move. He did not speak. He did not laugh. He simply climbed over me, and his spectral hand closed around my throat. I felt the unholy pressure, the ice-linked grip, and the desperate silent struggle for breath. I could not scream. His eyes, if one could call them that, held a cold emptiness, not a single glimmer of humanity. He was not Benjamin I remembered, but something far older, far more malevolent, wholly inhuman, a demon. The dream was so visceral, so real, that when I awoke, or perhaps it was just the ghost relenting, I was gasping, choking, clawing at my own throat. A phantom pressure lingered that I could not shake. I wonder, is this place really haunted by like a demon acting as his brother, or is he suffering from schizophrenia? That really makes you think. It's cool. It's a really cool premise. Following this, I plunged into a fever-induced hell. What had been but a gentle warmth now raged with the fury of a wraith. A guttural cry, the first sound I had uttered in months, years perhaps, tore through the night in an unfamiliar tone. Miss Holloway rushed in, her eyes widening in alarm at the raw sound of the emanated from me. Mother followed, her face paling to a ghastly white as she witnessed me trembling fright. "Mikhail, my child!" Mother cried, her voice laced with trilling fear as she saw my terror-stricken eyes and petrified frame. "What is it? What happened?" I'm sorry, I thought that was the father running in. "What is it? What happened?" she urged desperately, trying to fall to place my journal and pen to my hands. They merely fell to the floor. I could not answer. My throat felt raw, bruised, as if the attack was not a dream, but an assault in the physical realm. Those freezing, spectacled hands had left their mark. My eyes flitted from Mother to the dark corner of my room. Benjamin stood in the corner, looking no longer a shadow. He presented as a chillingly solid figure, his expression one of cold satisfaction. He offered no words, no laughter, but seemed very proud of the damage he'd inflicted on my frail countenance. The terror of the moment, the wordless attempt to extinguish my life, broke something within me. The mild fever quickly swelled into a draining malady, chewing away at my health and my sanity with voracity. I scrambled to the floor, desperate hands scribbling madly to my journal. The corner. Scribbles read, "A haunting. I am not alone. Benjamin visits the corner. Look." Miss Holloway read the words with alarm, but as she and Mother attempted to follow my pleas, they only came away concerned and confused. "You are deeply unwell," Mother whispers, shaking hands, easing back into bed. "Your dream will awake, my love. No one is in the room but you, I, and Miss Holloway." In the same way she always did when I was a child, she tucked my covers around me to offer comfort for my chills, and gave me a loving kiss on my sweat-laden forehead. "Rest now, dear. We will not leave you." As the fever now truly raged, a hellfire forge melting the boundaries of my mind. These spectacle visitations Violet intensified. Saw him in the dim corridors, heard my murmurs in the dark recess of the study, felt his icy breath on my neck in the dead of night. Such nights became a torment, a walking nightmare as restful sleep escaped me. Unable to bear the oppressive darkness of my room, I would slip from my bed, a candle of some feeble protection. I was drawn by unseen forces, by the phantom whispers of Benjamin. I would stalk the darkened halls of Whitmore Manor, a spectral hunter in my own home, and madly chase fleeting shadows that always danced just beyond my reach. Moonlight cast long, twisted figures across the polished floors, and every creak and bump in the night felt like a prequel to a night of torment. "Over here, Mikhail!" His voice would tease, a breathy caress that promised a game but delivered only dread. Hypnotized, I would race after him, gasping in exasperation until he turned the game around and rushed through me. The spectral horror always froze me in my tracks, the feeling unnaturally jarring, as his form rushed through my being with an impossible cold and the pain of 10,000 needles. I felt as if my very insides were being pulled away with him. It was the most bizarre pain I'd ever encountered, and it was left me buckling at the knees and loudly retching up at last content of my stomach. Blood often coupled the mess, which Miss Holloway would dutifully clean while his father escorted me to bed to administer any number of powerful sedatives. My leather-bound journal, usually a quiet companion in my voice to the world, became a log of my growing madness. My trembling hands scrawled frantic notes, ghoulish sketches, and dialogues with the spectral Benjamin. Haphazardly scribbled pleas from understanding that no living soul could comprehend stained the pages. My mother found it one evening, her face etched with a maternal worry as she sat by my bedside. She stroked my hair, her touch a lovely stark contrast to the phantom chill that plagued me. Her eyes shining pools of unshed tears never left mine as she clutched the worn pages, my heart fluttering like a caged bird. "Oh, Mikhail," she whispered, voice trembling as she delicately plucked my journal from my grasp. Hold on. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. Actually, I need to take a drink. 1 moment, please. Okay, that should be better. "Oh, Mikhail," she whispered, her voice trembling as she delicately plucked my journal from my grasp. She pointed to the passages where my hurried script formed replies to phantom questions, where entire conversations unfolded with a dead brother. "What is this? Who are you speaking to?" she asked softly, her eyes wide with a sorrow that mirrored the encroaching gloom within me. She read aloud, her voice quaking. "Why did Father strike you? How can I repent? she narrated. Worried eyes met mine. Who are you talking to? Weakly I scrolled out. Benny. I see him at night. Hurt, mocking, resentful. He inflicts pain. He hates me. He hates me. Every right to. I caused him pain. I caused him his life and dreams. All gone. All me. It's all my fault. I am but a leech. I was his leech, of the most treacherous breed. Fright flickers across her face. Do you dream of him? I scribbled on. Dreams? Yes. I immediately crossed this out. No, they're not dreams. They're too impossibly real, too close to, and too vivid. Believe me, you are the only one who would. Dear mother, a ghost, a demon haunts me. I fear. I felt my thread and thought snap, and words turned to incomprehensible scratches before I ultimately dropped the pen, and my hand shook so violently. Her eyes widened. You are making my heart ache, my darling. Come, sit with mother by the fire. Forget these phantoms. You need to rest. You need medicine and rest. Do not indulge in this. Please, you must believe. She pulls the pin from my grip, drawing me close into a suffocating hug. That's enough. Mother weeps. Her tears are like a dew on a wilting rose, so precious and yet so fleeting. She rereads my words, a scrawled testament to Benjamin's torment and the sickening guilt left with me. She reads my pleas to her to see, for her to believe, and Benjamin stands beside her, a silken smile stretches across his spectral face, a mask of dark amusement. He whispers it again, his voice like honey and venom. Do not understand, Mikhail. They never will. They think you are ill, but you are merely remembering. I shake my head in protest. Will they administer more gruesome treatments? Or are you destined for bedlam, like so many Whitmores before you? I grit my teeth in frustration and fear, trying to pull away from my mother's grip. She does not relent, instead calling to Miss Holloway to fetch the sterner parent. Father sees only madness. Mother sees only her son lost, adrift on a sea of frightful delusion. I only see Benjamin. They cannot fear his cruelty. They cannot hear his cruelty. As she awaited father, her embrace strengthened around my frail frame. I wanted to escape, but she was firm in preventing such a mistake. She prayed over me, mere echoes in my ear, and my gaze was drawn to the corner of the room, always lurking amongst the shadows. Benjamin stood, a silent demonic specter. His mockery so palpable it left a film in my mouth. Mustering what little strength I could, I desperately pulled away. My breath caught in my throat, desperate grasp, miserably falling to form words. I again sought my notebook, scrawling with the urgency of an exorcist. Go away, go away, go away, go away, go away. Pages of it, mad pleas to be being that might not even exist. Help me, God. My father entered. Whoops, sorry. Hit my leg on my desk. My father entered then, his presence filling the room with his usual air of ice-laced authority. He glanced at the journal, his lips curling in disdain. More of this spectral nonsense, Mikhail? He snapped, his voice sharp with a growling impatience that was too familiar. Put that foolish book away. Your mother coddles you. This is excessive sympathy. It's precisely what hinders his recovery. He needs medicine, not indulgence. I cowered as he reached for me, and his effortlessly pulled me to my feet. Mother flinched, stepping protectively closer to me, her fragile frame trembling. Arthur, please. He's suffering. Can you not see it? His spirit is broken. He feels utterly haunted. It may not be real to us, but it's so very real to him. He's genuinely in his suffering. I know it. Suffering from a fevered imagination. Titania. Father retorted, his father raising a harsh counterpoint to her shrill despair. These delusions are being fed by your coddling, justifying an imagination run awry. He needs healing rest, not to fill his head with these phantasms conjured by a fevered brain. There are no ghosts here, only illness. Focus on recovery, boy. Let these morbid fantasies cease. I snatched the journal from father's grasp, and while I expected spiteful protest, he paused as my trembling hand scratched furiously at the blank page. Believe me, Ben talks to me. I see him, hear him, memories, the ruler, the lashings. His hand was so cold, the lancet, my blood, his tears, laughter, always the laughter, the colors, they are running, like snow being tainted, the blood and filth, like his face now, so angry. He said he hates me, his art, his dreams, gone from me. The fever, it burns, father. Benjamin burns my very soul. He watches, he smiles. Can't you see? Can't you hear? Help me, God, help me. Help me, Father. Save me, save me, save me. I went on until I ran out of page space. The man was unmoved. Father recoiled, his face hardening into a mask of clinical fury. This is intolerable! he declared, a thunderclap of paternal exasperation. "You are wasting away your strength on childish delusions. You cannot have it. You will rest, and you will not leave your bed until I make you well." I whimpered in protest, but his grip tightened as he pulled me to him sternly. Mother now took my other arm, her touch sweet and protecting. A doctor shouldn't be so callous," she scolded. "If this is how you care for your son, I deeply pity your patience. You are a healer, yet you compose yourself with all the venom of a dictator. Strength of the mind is imperative in the healing process, and no woman, wife or not, will question my knowledge. You can put that boy to rest, but you will not see him anymore tonight, or at all, if you continue to coddle such delusions." His words always was law, and she was delicately silent as she helped me to my bed. I swear I saw tears in the corners of her eyes. This is intense. Oh my gosh. He is definitely... I really can't tell if he's actually seeing this, like, demon playing as his dead brother, or if he's suffering from schizophrenia. It plays back and forth. It's really well written, and so it's very cool. I like it a lot. Downstairs, I could hear my mother's wailing pleas to my father, which grew more desperate after this confrontation. Her sobs echoed in the silent halls, pushing him to seek more potent, calming treatments, anything to quiet the house of my mind. She urged compassion and sympathy from my broken soul, swearing to him that he was the punishment for being ill and that it was the only plunge me deeper into madness. I heard him dismiss her loudly before becoming footsteps echoed to my room. I clutched my covers in fear, shivering uncontrollably and coughing if I breathed too deep. Father, the physician, entered to watch me with a growing in despair that mirrored my own. His scientific mind, accustomed to the predictable ailments of the body, was ill-equipped for the spectral invasion he could not see. His remedies, once sources of comfort, became instruments of a different kind of torture, a dark reminder of the years I had spent battling chronic illness under his severe, unyielding gaze. "The humors are unbalanced, Mikhail," he stated after a long silence, his voice devoid of warmth. It was as if he had been navigating the years of studies in his mind before a solution finally came to him. "We must restore your equilibrium. The fear indicates an excessive phlegm. It must be drawn out." Now, sitting beside me, he proceeds lancets, their steel glinted with a sinister promise of it and a familiar terror. I felt the sting of the blade, the slow ooze of my own blood, pooling dark and viscous against the pristine white linen. Each drop he believed, would draw out the fever, the madness, the ghost. Mustard plaster for your cough, opium for the body aches. It wasn't long before a cocktail of remedies left me in a dizzy state. My shivering stopped, but I felt weak and invulnerable under such a sedative regime. The psychological scars of these years of torment deepened. Torment deepened, the icy whispers of Benjamin growing louder in my mind, desperate to prove himself a conqueror of disease. More methods followed methods that had been his go-to to my childhood fevers. "This blistering agent," he explained, his eyes fixed on the concoction, not my face, "will draw out the sickness to the surface. Expect great discomfort, but it is necessary." And great discomfort it was. I felt I was left alone to struggle through it as he retreated to fetch a large bowl of water. "This should not only help lower your fever, but shock these delusions out of your system." I was administered cold plunges that stole my breath, leaving me gasping once again, shivering, and all the more susceptible to the phantom chill that was Benjamin's signature. This was a near nightly routine, and Benjamin would watch from these periphery, his phantom radiating a palpable glee at my suffering. He whispered saccharine encouragement, suffered as a vile counterpoint to my father's brutal ministrations. As each day brought me no relief from the phantasmic plague coursing within me, those awful treatments grew more brutal and desperate. This was now a thing of pride for father, but it was torture to me. In the corner, in the shadow, in my mind's eye, it was always Benjamin grinning as he mimed father's actions and watched my dramatic responses. One night, Benjamin's spectral taunts were more pointed than ever. "What if I'm not dead, Mikhail?" he purred, his voice a silken thread weaving through the silence of my room. "Or is it just your cold heart desire? I'm still here. I'm watching, waiting." A shockingly solid finger of his plunged into a fresh incision, making me seize in discomfort. "See, you wouldn't feel such a thing if I was a figment, or maybe the pain is just your life succumbing to illness. as it should have long ago. What's real, little ghost? My mind at this point was so far infected that I could not decipher if I was asleep or awake. If this is a dream or a haunt, uncertainty of the definition of existence, a surreal argument, where a spectral presence insisted on my insanity, and my fevered mind clung to some desperate need for proof. In my utter delirium, my resolve, sharp and terrifying, took hold. I had to know. I had to see. I had to confirm his death, feeling that banishes this torment apparition, lest I be consumed by it entirely. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me, there it is again. With a strength I did not know I possessed, I slipped from my bed. My door was locked from the outside, but I did not halt my hysterical determination. The window opened with ease, and I leapt from it with an unnatural bravery. Good Lord! The night was abiding, oppressive blackness as I crept from the manor and towards the church cemetery. Was he? Okay, I thought he just jumped to his death for a minute. What the flip? I think it was just like a, I don't know what he just threw himself out a window, and I guess he's fine now. The wind howled like a banshee and chilled me to my marrow, a fitting accompaniment to my maternal descent, a mental descent. Our family's plot was easy to find, even in my swaying state. I found his grave, still a fresh mound of earth beneath the twisted skeletal branches of a witch elm. Fueled by a desperate, unreasoning, and unrelenting madness, I began to claw at the cold, frozen soil with my bare hands, ripping at the dirt as if to unearth Benjamin himself. To a force of confrontation, to prove he was truly gone, the world spun around me, my stomach with it, and that physical exertion making me sputter of bile and blood, but I was unrelenting in my pursuit. A flash of a lantern's light thrust me into the cold reality of my actions. My eyes widened in mad confusion, not recognizing where I was, but somehow knowing why I was here. It was the old gravekeeper, alerted by the unnatural sounds of a lone figure wheezing frantically in the dead of night. Who found me? He stumbled upon me, a pathetic skeletal figure, mud-caked and shivering, my hands raw and bleeding, tearing at the grave of my brother. The sight must have confirmed every fear my parents had. I was soon surrendered to the local bishop, a man whose stern countenance offered no comfort, only the cold weight of judgment. He led me like a shepherd back to Whitmore Manor. Needing to carry me as I was so weak, my parents received me with a mixture of profound relief and utter despair. I wanted madly to articulate the spectral argument. The desperate need to confront Benjamin's death, my hands shook so violently that any attempt to use the notebook Father offered was futile. The trembling scribbles illegible, nonsensical. Claims he was talking to the dead, my father stated clinically to the bishop, voice flat and dismissive of any supernatural presence. My dead son. The bishop held my hand, exposing to Father the mess of bloody fingernails and dirt. He dug at the grave. He has no respect for those past. A most act of extreme delusion, Father assured the holy man until he surrendered me to the authority of the Whitmore estate. Seeing me Seeing my utter inability to explain, my father, his own reserve of patience now completely depleted, administered a powerful sedative by force. It was a draught meant to silence the fever, the torment, the madness. My knees instantly gave way, and I drifted into a heavy, unnatural sleep. The last thing I remember was the cold, sterile touch of the spoon against my lips. I awoke sterile white walls of a sanatorium which offered a stark contrast to the oppressive gloom of Whitmore Manor. Little did I know, this was my new home. Yep, he's in the loony bin. 6 months have passed since the graveyard incident. 6 months of forced rest, of regiment and routines, of the slow, agonizing fate of Benjamin's spectral presence. The fever had broken. Tremors subsided, whispers now echoing only faintly in the recess of my mind. The doctors, some of whom were once pupils of my father, attributed my recovery to the potential medicines. The carefully monitored diet, the enforced isolation, I knew better. It was the distance of the physical separation from that house, those memories, from the very air that seemed to breed ghostly malice. The shadows, however, remained. They danced on the corners of my eyes and of my mind, shifting and twitching, always threatening and to coalesce into a familiar form. The dark, once a sanctuary, was now a source of the most profound dread. I could not sleep without a lamp burning at its feeble light, a fragile shield against the terrors of the nightfall. The slightest creak of the floorboards or a whimper of the wind sent a jolt of freezing fear through me, severing as a chilling reminder of the phantom presence that still lingered. Other patients with vacant eyes and equally fractured minds offered a strange sort of camaraderie. We were all broken things, remnants of lives shattered by unseen forces. We shared stories of phantoms and delusions, of trauma, and of the demons that stalked the halls of our minds. But their tales, however, harrowing, lacked the chilling precision of my own, spoke of vague terrors or generalized anxieties, but I knew the name of my tormentor. I knew his voice, his touch, and the cruel mocking laughter. Ooh, ow. A summons arrived on a crisp autumn morning, a stark white envelope bearing the familiar crest of Whitmore Manor. My heart, which had begun to beat with a semblance of normalcy, lurched in my chest with strong fear. The letter penned in my mother's familiarly elegant script informed me of my father's passing. Apoplexy, it said. Swift and merciful, it was chilling news, and unfortunate to take it back home. My release from the sanatorium was contingent upon my return to Whitmore Manor. My mother, her grief etched deep into her face, had arranged for my care under the witful eyes of Miss Holloway. My practice nurse, the doctors, relieved to be rid of me and the space I took up, readily agreed. My recovery illustrated a triumph of their methods, a testament to the power of science. They did not understand that the true battle was not just against the fever, but against torment from a plane of existence yet unknown. The journey home was a descent into a nightmare I judged long to forgot. The train rattled along the tracks, carrying me closer to the estate, to the memories, to the very air that seemed to pulse with an evil presence. The landscape, once a source of artistic inspiration, now seemed to mock me with its bleak beauty. The trees, their twisted forms reaching towards the gray sky, resembled the grasping hands of the dead. As the carriage wheel crunched of the cobblestone driveway of Whitmore Manor, a wave of the most profound dread washed over me, the chilling premonition of what awaited. The house, its stone facade, still bearing the weight of generations past and generations to come, stood as a silent monster, its windows like a vacant eyes, its doors like a maw ready to devour me. Miss Holloway greeted me at the door, her face a mask of practiced sympathy. She led me through these familiar halls, each step echoing with ghosts of the past. The air was heavy of the scent of death, a cloying mixture of lilies and burning candles. My mother, her face pale and drawn, embraced me with a tenderness that both comforted and terrified me. "Akil, my darling," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You are home." It felt like no home. I was merely returning to the scene of a crime, to the place where my sanity had been stolen, where phantoms and demons lingered, waiting to claim me. The days that followed were a violent sea of mourning and quiet despair. The funeral was attended by a handful of distant relatives and acquaintances, some of whom I've lost to madness and fragility, never to marry or carry the family name. My father, the man of science, the stern patriarch, was gone. He had no worthy successor with him. Part of me also perished, part of that had been crushed beneath the weight of his expectations, his cruelties, his unyielding gaze. My mother, fragile and broken, retreated into a world of her own, her days spent wandering the halls and only offering fleeting, sorrowful-filled smiles. I lacked the words and skills to comfort her. Miss Holloway, ever the faithful servant tended to her, needs as much as my own, her presence a constant, silent comfort. I spent most of the days in the study, surrounded by the familiar scent of old books and stretched canvases. I tried to read, to paint, to find some solace in the familiar rituals of my past. But the shadows in the corners of the room always danced and shifted, always threatening to coalesce into a familiar form. The nights were the worst. The darkness, once a source of comfort, was now a source of terror. I could not sleep without a lamp burning as it flickered the light of a fragile shield against the encroaching night. I dared not to enter my room, not even to sleep, as I feared that was where the most of evil the phantom hid. Oh my gosh, I butchered that. I dare not enter my room, not even to sleep, as I feared that was where the most evil of the phantoms hid. The slightest creak of the floorboards, or a whisper of the wind, sent a jolt of icy fear through me, a chilling reminder of my fears that still lingered, waiting. I am sure they will never leave me. Real or not, they are real to me, and that is enough to justify my utter dread. One night, I sat in the study. Sat in the study, only the light emanating from a single lamp on the desk. My mother, exhausted by her grief, had fallen asleep in her chair, a rest I knew she desperately needed. The room was silent, save for the gentle ticking of the grandfather clock. in the hall. The air was still, heavy the weight of unspoken grief and choking, oppressive silence. I stared at the pages of my journal, my hand trembling as I reached for my pen. I wanted to write, to capture the blanket of unease that had settled over me, the document that the slow, insidious return of the spectral presence. But such words eluded me. The ink seemed to dry on the page, letters always blurred before my eyes. A chill ran down my spine, a sensation so familiar, so terrifying, that my breath caught in my throat. The air in the room grew crippling cold, and shadows began to deepen, to coalesce. I felt the unmistakable feeling of eyes watching me, a cold, unwavering gaze that pierced through the darkness into my very soul. I dare not move, dare not breathe. My heart threatened to burst, a frantic drumbeat in the suffocating silence. I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that I was not alone. My mother stirred in her sleep, her head lifting slightly. She murmured something unintelligible and settled back into her chair, her face sorrowful but serene. I could not look. I could not turn around. I was paralyzed, trapped in a silent, terrifying stalemate. The air grew colder, the silence more profound. Bile threatened to free itself from my stomach. With all the conviction of a quaking rabbit, I turned around, and then I saw them. The eyes, cold, empty, watching. God save my soul. That was really good. I actually really liked every bit of that. And I still can't tell if it's really like he's being haunted in this house or if he's suffering from schizophrenia. And I like the usage of like these old medicinal properties they used back in like the 1800s, because they don't have the medicine we have obviously. They had to use all these like snake oils and like made up remedies just to figure out what was wrong with people. I really appreciate that. It's such a cool detail. I honestly I don't really have anything else to say about it. I just really enjoyed it. It was the perfect length, and I hope the author keeps writing. I really enjoy his work. So thank you again so much for watching. Thank you for letting me read your story. Like I said, all the links are in the description below, and you can check out the author on the subreddit. So, all right, that's about all I have. So it's getting late. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Good night. Later.